as I mentioned earlier today, the call will be around the pricing discipline framework and understanding pricing within your specific markets and your services. So let's start off with playing a quick mind game. And imagine that you got two businesses offering the exact same service. One charges $200 and the other charges $500. Which one would you assume is better? Don't overthink it. Human nature tells us the higher price must be higher quality, right? That's the psychology that we're going to unpack today. And more importantly, we're going to help you stop undercharging and start leading in your market segment. So, as we talk through pricing and truly understanding what would be some of the reasons that people price a certain way. And that starts off with that most people don't set the prices based on math. They set prices based on fear. And generally, they fall within these realms is that they don't want to scare customers away. People in my market won't pay more, or I'll raise the prices later when I'm more established. Who in this room has heard those three or a version of those three? We've all heard them, right? So let me tell you something. What I've learned in my years of operations and leadership, there's always going to be a more expensive competitor that ironically isn't better than you. So they're just more confident, right? And so as I think back, and we all can kind of relate to these organizations, Apple, they don't sell phones. Starbucks doesn't really sell coffee. Lululemon doesn't really sell leggings. What they do sell is the permission to feel premium. And premium pricing attracts better customers because we all know cheap pricing attracts one thing, and that's headaches. So let's stop pricing emotionally and let's start pricing intentionally. And how do we do that? How will we do that first off? But before we get into that, Willie, I want to start off with asking you a quick question. And I know that you went through your ups and downs in setting pricing for your organization. And for those of you that may not know about Willie's, business, Willie had a fantastic, very successful transportation and trucking business in northern Alberta, and it did record number of sales numbers when it sold. It sold at a record number, right, Willie? So let's talk about what finally made you consider and confident enough to change your pricing at Willie's Trucking.
Yeah, I think first step is what you guys are getting here or hearing right now from Hector. I uh, I was always so afraid to increase pricing, but then I started going to some conferences and different things where I kept hearing that over and over where you really need to price based on what you're providing for a service. And for us, it came down to where we had 98% delivery on time and also less than 0.5% damage claims on freight. And while the industry average was nowhere near that. And so at that point, I realized we were more than just a trucking company. We were a reliable partner. And so if someone wanted uh, to have late freight, cheap pricing, there were plenty other carriers they could pick from. So yeah, we really set ourselves apart by simply focusing on on-time delivery and damage free, and that gave me the confidence that we could raise the rates.
That's awesome, Willie. And when we think about, the application of on-time service and being a fair and equitable partner that your customers can grow with alongside your growth, it's about aligning your pricing to be effective through that growth. A lot of individuals talk about pricing. We got to be fair, and it isn't about fair. It's about understanding how effective you are in the service and value that you truly bring. Like here's an example. We've all maybe have seen this in one way or shape or another. Jeff Bezos, take Amazon Prime. When it first launched, it was at $79. Then it went to $99, then 119. Currently, it's somewhere around like $139. And every time there's noise, right? We've seen it with Netflix as well. They were like $8.99, and now I think they're over like $25 with their pricing models. And every time we see it, there's rumbling of complaint. But then what happens? You stay with it and you maintain your subscription. And here's the ironic part is a lot of these organizations, they actually see their subscriptions increase instead of decrease. So what does that tell you? Is when you have that emotional attachment to value for what you're paying, you're going to continue to stay through it. So how do we break this down? And then how do we make this actually functionable for us? We have business owners here in the group from startups to very successful businesses, established businesses, and we have department leaders as well here who manage your departments, and you have one way of accountability to how you affect pricing. But before we get there, let's get down to the formula. What is the formula that we should be looking at? We start off with 3 steps. The first one is knowing your true cost per unit or per client, and include your labor, materials, rent, overhead, everything, taxes, fuel, all of it, including your salaries. Okay, it's important. I see this as a big gap. Most entrepreneurs miss out their salaries as part of their pricing model. So let's make sure that you're not one of those. The second step is add your profit margin. And let's start with a minimum of 20 to 30%. If you're running your business today under 20% profit, you don't own a business. Unfortunately, you own a job with liabilities. And so I want to make sure that that's really clear, and particularly to the department heads. You need to make sure that you're fulfilling your role to allow your organization to raise that bar to where the profit margins are going to be in that 20 to 30%, because that's where your business is healthy enough to allow for growth. And with that growth comes the opportunity for expansion, increases in pay through the organization, and all the benefits that we like to see with a nice, healthy, and steady business. And step 3 is adjust for positioning. Okay, this is critical. As you determine your positioning in the market, are you Walmart or are you Apple? Right? So think about that quickly in your brain. Are you the cheapest or are you premium, essentially? Right? And if you're the cheapest, you'll be busy, but you're never going to truly be wealthy. And if you're premium, be ready to attract better clients that have more loyalty with some less stress, but they demand better product output and better service. So you have to know what is your positioning in the market. So Willie, we talked about how you went and what you acknowledged, to what you needed to see to become confident to raise prices. But how did you justify the higher prices when your customers pushed back?
Yeah, I would say, I guess the first thing is you have to stop arguing about the price and start asking some questions. For us, it was what does late freight cost you? Or what does damage freight cost you? And so they kind of answered those questions out loud, the conversation flipped. Instead of defending the rates, our rates, we were defending their profits basically. And so
Hmm.
that's when I knew pricing wasn't the cost conversation. It was the conversation about the value we provided as a service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always the key, right? As we talked about, and we know our experiences that we've lived through. And I can relate to many organizations through my time at Pepsi, where it was it was it was well documented that through the 90s and the 2000s, PepsiCo out earned Coca-Cola although Coca-Cola outsold PepsiCo.
Mm.
And they did that through knowing their positioning in the market. They kept their prices very competitive and they looked to be super lean in operational costs. However, they also understood their value, right? They knew that they stood for brand that was loyal to those customers like the Frito-Lay, the Gatorades, the soft drinks. And so we think back of that loyalty piece and how do we impact that as leaders and owners? How do we create the loyalty with the partnerships, Willie? I think that's always something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with and don't make the connection back to pricing. So
Mm.
you had some long-standing accounts. I remember like the D Nows, the Apexes, and what were some of the things that you did to make sure that you stayed consistent in knowing, okay, I've been with this organization for 1, 2, 3, 5 years. When do you change the pricing and how often are you looking at that?
Mm. Yeah, for us, it became a annual thing for price increase, and the focus was always again communicating the value that we would bring, and that we are bringing, and making sure we were aligned with that, and usually they agreed, but
Yeah,
but also to be honest, we have lost a few clients in that. That raising our prices. But one thing I would say, those were usually the loudest and the most demanding clients, and we didn't make any profit off of them.
that's
And
right. Oh
and
yeah, I
so
remember those.
so really what it did, it freed us our capabilities up for better clients, I would say.
That's a point that I don't think a lot of organizations do enough when adjusting and reviewing their pricing. How often are you firing customers
Hmm.
due to pricing? Are you in business for profit or are you a nonprofit organization? And so that is part of the formula. And you hit it, Willie. You said annually. We're reviewing pricing annually.
Hmm.
And that is something that every organization needs to do as they build out their budgets every year. They should be looking at what is our pricing model for the following year and adjusting accordingly. So, again, like we go back to talk about some other examples that are out there in our current space. We've seen example of gym owners that are following like Alex, Hormonzi's pricing
Hmm.
model of $100 million offers out there. And they go from selling these $49 memberships to well over $2,000 memberships in these transformational packages, right? And so like how does one do that? Well, you have to think about it. It's about the value that they're getting and the experience that they're getting. And in the previous episodes, we talked about customer experience, we talked about value. All of the previous topics we've covered all have led up to this point to encourage you to understand the formula behind pricing right. So, let's take a minute to reflect and pause for a second. We've been talking about all this. So, let me ask you, are you currently the cheapest, average, or most expensive in your market? And you don't have to answer it, just think about it out loud or in your head. You don't have to answer it out loud. But if you're not the most expensive, why? Why not? Right? Now, think of your best client ever. Right now, in your heads, think of your best client. Would they pay 20% more? I bet you they will. I bet you they will. If they're your most loyal, they value you, they've stuck it through, the ups and downs of, the learning curves that you may have had as a business, and they're still there, I guarantee you they'll still do that. So it's the bad clients, the ones Willie talked about. It's the bad clients. They're the ones that want to pay the least, and they're the ones that struggle to accept when we've raised, some prices. So as you think back, it's important to understand where do you want to be? Where do you want to be in the market? That's the critical piece. So Willie, again, we talked a lot about pricing here, and I got one more question for you. So,
Hmm.
what would you say to the leaders that are in this room that are scared to increase their prices right now?
Yeah, I think one thing to note probably is your price increase somewhat has to match your performance too, right? So if you have a system built that guarantees consistency on providing your service, you have earned the right to charge more, I would say. And
Hmm.
so if that matches your performance, and then the other thing I would say, and this is something that I've actually lately coached some business owners through, and I heard also a pretty good story the other day how it really shifted his thinking around his price increase now, and how his clients have actually responded to it. And so what we did first was actually um, before raising the rates was three questions that I got him to really answer. I said, "What are three uniques about your service that you offer, your products, and what really stands out? Why should a customer choose you over your competition?" And I said,
Right.
once we have figured out those questions, or what that is. Now, when they say, "Oh man, your price is too high," or whatever is not in line, you answer by, "This is why our price is here. This is the value that we bring to you." And
Hmm.
and he had the one of those conversations with one of his clients, and he said it just instantly turned. He said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And like it, he said it worked so unbelievable. He was pretty proud of himself the next day.
That's a good one, Willie. Good story to share. And it outlines understanding your niche, your value, but also your ideal candidates, your ideal market candidates, right? And who are those ideal customers that you want to focus on?
Yeah.
It's interesting. We have a room full of business unit leaders here too, and I want to touch on this a little bit and pivot the discussion to aim it at your roles, because a lot of you might be saying, "Well, I'm not the owner. I don't set prices. I'm in ops. I'm in, X department." I want to tackle some of those misbeliefs because you actually are a critical component to ensuring that prices can be adjusted equitably and fairly for the organization. If you're running an operations department and you are horrible at delivering the service that your organization is selling, well, that's on your department. You have to focus on ensuring that you deliver those measurables that allows the organization to set price points. So that means you have to internally check on all of your processes and systems and people to deliver to those. The same way, if you're in sales, if you're leading a sales department and you're in this call, one of the biggest errors I see in sales managers is they're driven by sales activity, X number of sales, right? Or X number of revenue. And what is the one KPI that they tend to miss on when they're chasing the top line number? And that's the profitability. You're giving it away for free because you just want to make the sale. You're cutting away your profit margins. You're driving tons of activity, but at the bottom number, you're eating away from that 20 to 30% profit margin. So if you're leading a department that's doing that, you need to internalize and make those corrections because you're also, a pivotal point for the organization to be consistent, profitable, healthy, and growing and being a leader in your marketplace. So these are how it ties back to your department heads and you leaders on this call. It's not just about the entrepreneur. It's not about the entrepreneur setting the price. We all do it. We help ensure that the price points stay at where it needs to be for the business. So, that's kind of what we wanted to bring today. And the challenge for the group is pretty simple. Pretty simple. But here's what I think I'd like us to think about. Pick one product, service, or package that you sell, that you provide, and increase that by 10%. Just 10 points. No announcement, just change it. If no one says anything, then you were underpriced. And if someone complains, well, congratulations, you just found out what your current real price point ceiling is. That's what your value is today. Go fix that value, and then you're going to be able to charge more later. Okay? So that's the easy challenge for this week is go look for that. And as we built out this four-part series around operations, cost pricing, and cost discipline, we're gonna introduce the second pillar next week, because revenue, as we talked about before, solves a lot of problems, but profit really solves everything. So
Mm.
we want to open it up to the room. We want to get your thoughts. We want to get your questions, and we want to get some engagement around pricing. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear you've been able to overcome it. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and sort of what are some of the watch outs? Like, what are some of the things we can avoid doing when raising prices? So let's start maybe around the room here. We'll go with someone that's starting out their business. Andrew, I know that you're starting out right now. Let's hear about how you were able to price your business and go to market with your landscape business.
Well, I just researched a lot of prices according to what most landscape guys and lawn mowing guys did. And I found out, well, that was a little low for in our area, so I just raised it about 10 to 15%.
Okay.
And now I have a customer. She said in spring my price was cheap. Why it wouldn't be higher? But now she's not paying it. So I can't get a hold of her. Yeah, I don't know what to do. She's not answering or anything. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck with her.
Oh, so now you got a bad debt. That's what you've got there. Yeah, we've seen that before. We'll go through all that, and that's about understanding, the exposure and sort of the liabilities that you take on as an entrepreneur, and putting the sort of traps to prevent from that happening, right? Collecting a credit card, payment in advance, or having a credit card on file so that you're able to charge these type of accounts. Those are sort of the watch outs that we can help you with and that you can, implement in your business. But as it relates to specific pricing, you said you did a market research, you believed that you had an idea of where you wanted to enter, but you came in a little higher. So why did you come in the points higher that you did?
Well, for my reason was, oh, kids go.
Oh, Andrew's got the family there. There you go. Good, good. We'll come back to you, Andrew. Maybe we'll go around the room. Maybe we'll go to Mike. Mike, I know you lead a department that is sales. So this definitely is
It,
right up your alley.
it is, but it's also it's different. It's different because we're putting quotes out there based off market value.
Hmm.
Um, but we're nowhere near your 20 to 30% in our commercial division. Our commercial division, we're only putting 8 points, and we're
Wow.
still not winning. We're still not winning jobs at 8 points.
Wow.
Um, we're still about 3% high is our
Geez.
feedback. So that's our commercial. So that's a very, very tough market
Hmm.
for us. And I believe it's for everyone, just being in an industry as long as I have for the commercial side. But in our production homes, we're sitting at about 24%. In our custom homes, we're sitting at about 28%. And then over in our service, we're sitting at about that 28% also, 28 to 30 over there. So we have them, I believe, where we should be over there. We
Hmm.
are talked about as one of the higher charged out companies, and we do stand behind what we offer. and it's what we're serving them, and it's what they're getting, and our service afterwards we're done. We take care of them, and we're doing well. We're on par to do a good year this year. So yeah, we do raise our prices. It's also based off of our suppliers. They come in at their fixtures at 10% this year. They hike them up 10%, and we got to follow
Sure.
suit. Like we can't eat that. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
Unfortunately, you do have to pass on that elevated price point to the consumer and to the end user. That is a good, it is a best practice. So it's interesting though, you talk about the commercial division and struggling, right? And so it's sort of like helped out through the other divisions in your organization to stay afloat. And that sounds like a business decision at your organization where you're maintaining that for a specific reason.
we are. But that, like I say, that's I can tell everyone that we just landed a school in Calgary. We're going to do it. It was 8.3 million, and we went at it was 7.2%, and we were still 90,000 high, the lowest bid, and we got accepted at that. And like you just do the math on that. No, I can't do it in my head right now, but it's not big profit margins we're working with. They're big numbers, but the
Right.
is error. The error is this: if something happens on those jobs, it's fast. We're going to lose that money very quickly. So
Construction and commercial, like those are type of divisions that scare me. Because you could lose big, right? And so like I just don't have the stomach for it personally. I know others
no,
do.
it's a hard business because well we have to get bonding, but we push the bonding to the client. We don't pay for the bonding, but we are bonded, and but it is a scary. That division's our scariest division because it can make or break our company. It can
Mhm.
sink the company if things fall through. So
So
it's a
your
very
process
delicate one.
have to be tight, right? Like if your margins are that close, your labor costs, your material costs, all of your efficiencies, they have to be pretty dialed in.
Every we track everything on a weekly basis of our hours on the jobs, our labors, our material costs on those jobs, and we fight for our employees to change orders are where we win. We'll win on
Nice.
change orders because we put those at 30%, and
Mhm.
and our wages we charge out like so we charge out our whatever our charge our rate is agreed upon in the contract, but that's where we make it. So we tell our guys anything that differs from the drawings, it's you stop working when it's a change order, and
Absolutely.
that's where we try to make up that cost.
That's
Yeah.
that's the
So, but
unplanned
yeah,
work, right? Those are
that's
sort
how
of
we work. Yeah.
that's what in the transportation world we call them like accessorials or extras, right? It's the you
Yeah.
know the oh, you want me to carry it inside, that's an extra fee, right? Or
Yeah.
there's little things that are not part of the original scope of the work agreement.
Mm.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's where we find that's where we'll make some of that money.
Gotcha.
So
No, that's
yeah.
great, Mike. And I certainly the brand in Calgary is well known and well respected, and it gives you the opportunity in the other departments to charge those higher margins.
Yes, it does. It does. It's
Excellent.
nice to see that. It's nice that those departments can help out. And yeah, like I say, first quarter was our worst quarter ever, but we bounced back, we rebounded, and we're doing good. So
Nice. And what we
yeah,
talked about today, does that resonate with your organization? Is that something that you've seen that is applicable? Are you reviewing rates yearly? I think you said you did, but I just wasn't sure if that's something that you do
we
throughout all
we
divisions.
do we do review. Each division will sit down in I think it was like January. We sit down and we do our reviews and see where we stand with our suppliers. Talk to our suppliers, see what their thinking's coming up, and decide at that point if we're going to raise or if we're just going to maintain. And
Nice.
we also work with our builders. So if we're going to raise and they say, well, can you hold pricing for the last 6 houses here? And then, okay, well, we agree on after that, you can raise your price 8%. and then we work with them. We're like, okay, we'll hold pricing on these homes, and then after that, everything jumps up. So we try to balance everybody out.
For sure. For sure. And
Yeah,
that's a strategy, right? You're going to have price point for partnerships, longevity, right? The length of we talked about it, the LTV, the length, the lifetime value of that account, that customer, all of that is something that you're going to consider when you're pricing. So you're touching on all some really cool points, Mike.
exactly.
I appreciate that. That's really good. Thanks. All right. Well,
Perfect. No
sounds
worries.
like you guys
Thanks.
got it dialed in and excited to hear how it continues to evolve for you. I'm gonna pivot a little
Yeah, for
bit.
sure.
I'm gonna go to sort of the startup again. Tyler, you said that you're starting up, but you've had some experience in this in previous lives you were mentioning.
Yeah, yeah, pricing's hard sometimes. Just trying to get the right model,
Yeah.
is the thing. I would say we're probably priced pretty decent, but I don't have enough feedback yet to kind of get the gist. We don't talk about pricing much. We typically talk and move past. So maybe I am not enough, but I feel like it's worth trying out for another 12 months to get a feedback and then kind of adjust from there. But um, yeah, pricing in the consulting world, uh, when I went from like normal employment job and then I went into consulting and then I started getting work. And then I realized that I was like a third of what the normal rates were for charging in consulting. And I was like, what? This is what it's
Yeah.
normally like. So I had to do a pivot basically right there and repackage. But I try to set up packages where if it's planned, that it's better rate because it's easier. But if it's
Yes.
like last minute type thing or like by the hour, then it's kind of like we got to go this path basically. But
That's right.
I have a question with the change requests. Do you guys
Mhm.
also like log the problems and incidents? Like, are those also factors into the change requests? So I'm part of the job as well too, or I don't know
Yeah.
if I should ask questions to Mike, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just thinking like,
Yeah,
you
no,
know, because like
direct it to the
change
room.
requests are always a thing that you want to be on top of for sure, right? So,
Yeah, Mike,
but
can you handle this one for Tyler?
Yeah, no, in our
yeah,
when we get a change directive or a change order, or we look at what everything that's involved in that.
yeah,
From our time in the office at looking at that job. So every minute actually spent on that change order, not just what's required in the field, but everything
yeah,
spent on that, we actually put into that. And because no one's time's free, right? And
yeah, yeah.
sometimes we get major pushback with them, and we explain like every step, and we're open book. Like we show them our sheet, and this is what
Mhm.
we put into it, and and they always go through. The job's moving forward. We never try to gouge anybody, but we have to capture all costs
Yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
day. Like like we always say, like we always give a little bit of freebies in the beginning of jobs because no one ever remembers you giving freebies at the end of the job. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's hard to say like where you give the free stuff and where you charge
Hmm.
for it. But we try to capture everything, especially being in those low margins.
Yeah, for
We have
sure.
no
That's what I was
options
thinking.
that
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
A-
a good point.
And
And
you
you guys,
probably have to communicate that right away as well when that happens, right, Mike?
yes, everything's communicated. Like you say, we're open book with our clients when it comes to all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, they they want to see it, so we show it. We're not
Yeah.
hiding anything. We're showing everything we have.
and that's exactly the key, Willie. You hit it right on there when it comes to change orders and any accessorials or extra fees. You want to be transparent and you want to make sure that you're an open book. Customers' pain points, and we are all customers, we're all end users, and you don't want to see hidden costs. Hidden fees will piss anybody off. So it's best to be upfront, communicate it, get approval, get buy-in, and then go ahead and charge it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with Business Today. They did a job that the bid price was $150,000, and now they have finished the job with all the added change orders that they had on the job. It comes out now at 345,000.
Whoa.
Those are the best.
And
Those are the best ones.
but one problem, they didn't communicate as this was starting to add up. And
Oh,
and yeah, so that's where I said you went just totally wrong. Like you need to really, on a daily basis on something like that, you need to communicate.
Hmm.
You
Absolutely.
don't proceed without POs. That's our big thing. Until that's
Mm,
approved and signed, we don't do the work.
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
such a good process to have. Ensure you
Yeah.
get approval, right? So
Yeah.
very good, excellent. Good question, Tyler. And I know you're just starting off. You're back onto rebuild mode, but we're here to work together as a community. So welcome here.
thanks. Thanks.
All right, we'll pivot over to Cecilia. I see that you're now at home, and you now lead a department as we've talked about week in and week out. But let's talk about the impact that you have in pricing, and how do you see today's discussion relating to your role and to your organization.
Sorry, I couldn't get the mute. Yeah, so in my role, I'm not very involved in the pricing process and any of that. Like I'm more completely ops. But
Mhm.
something that stood out for me when you were explaining all this is when you mentioned about the firing a customer. So I more than adding something here because yeah, everything is very interesting. But yeah, like I said, I'm not really involved in the pricing process. Uh, I'm more. I have more like a question. What are the red flags? So what indicates you that okay, it's time to move on? Like when you fire a customer, because that's not a usual thing to do, right? So
Yeah, I'll get to your question in a minute, but I'll first hit on something. You're in operations, and everybody in operations certainly impacts pricing. So you directly today do not have direct input to the pricing model or the way that rates are being positioned, but you certainly impact the ability to raise prices and maintain prices for your organization, right?
we do with our service, yeah, and we also go through the pain of having other carriers in there because we have a lot of our customers. They can't have just the one carrier. They have to have a couple of different options, and then it's really hard when you have another carrier in there with the rates way lower. In For us, I know we are priced high
Yeah.
for what we do, but I like to see it like you said, like we're not, we're Starbucks, right?
Yes.
So
Premium.
you're gonna get that service. But again, yeah, it's all about for us. It's all about the service and all about giving that, not lowering that bar, right? Like this is the level of service that we're providing, and we don't estimate the cost. Yeah, it's not something that we are even looking at it. It's like we're giving top service.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's the right attitude. That's the right focus points for division leaders like yourself and others in the room. If you're thinking, well, I just manage my team of 10 people and we're in ops. Well, yes, but you do impact pricing. You do impact the opportunity and ability to grow the organization. So back to your question, you said, well, how do you know when it's time to fire, a customer? And I'll go to Willie, because I know Willie's done this
Mm.
before. But here's what I look for when looking to break up with an account, and it's when the value for me to maintain the account is no longer there. So when the profit margin drops below the acceptable level, when that margin is, we talk about 20 to 30% ideally, but I don't want to be below 15%. Anything below 15%, it's just not the right business strategy for me. And so, as we look at leaders in our organizations, we should point out those ones that are 15% or less. And if they are, and there's a strategic reason because you're trying to hold share market, space in a particular area, or because it's a relationship. That could be the second reason why you want to stay there. You've got a long tenured relationship. They were early on from, your early clients, and so you've maintained them. And so you've sort of allowed that to be there. But at the point that the margin is eroded and the requests and the headaches continue to outgrow that margin is when I say enough's enough. Like they're stepping on the value, they're stepping on the relationship, and the dollars amount don't equal here for us. And that's when I say it's time to move on, because we're all in business for profit, unless you're in a nonprofit organization. So
Right.
that's how I view it, and that's the way that I look at this. When they start nickel and diming you on everything, when they start, pushing back and don't see the value add while they add on more, and more, but not increase the pay. That's when you start to put them in your radar of, the accounts that you need to plan on losing as you do your annual review the next year. But Willie, I know you have certainly had the experience in having to do this. What do you do as a best practice for when having to fire accounts?
Yeah, the first thing, it always hurts to think of letting a customer go. And for me, the first thing is actually just start communicating uh, what we're experiencing as their the client from the other side, where we can't make a profit. And I know Abe Neufeld told me at one point, he said, I'm never afraid to share my financial statements with a client. If they think we're gouging them, let's share the financial numbers and say this is why we need to either pivot, change, and also you mentioned headaches. So I would bring all that up in conversation, and sometimes you can turn that around, and the customer becomes a great client. So that's always my first go-to. But then if it just doesn't change, you just have to give them notice, say we need to part way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you an example of a organization that I have worked with in the past. Nobody from that organization is on this call today. Large landscaper out of Denver, Colorado, and they had landed $1 million a year account. So keep in mind, this is a landscape company. There are 35 people, and they land a big major contract, $1 million a year. They had to put staff on site for this particular account. It was a 7-day-a-week account. But the way they priced it with mowing with ride-on lawnmowers, right? Efficient, powered lawnmowers. Well, the account managers at the site actually wanted push mowers. So you could see the labor efficiency went really down fast, because you now are having to add extra labor and cost with that price point. So they went back to them and they said, look, we we're losing money with this. Although you're paying us $1 million, it's costing us $1.3 million to do this. We don't win here. And unfortunately, the organization just wouldn't budge. They were sticking to what they wanted. And then this organization had to make some tough concessions, and ultimately ended up having to let go of that account, because it couldn't work. There was no financial way that they could absorb that extra cost.
Yeah.
So it's about being able to stand your ground, understand where is it that you can make adjustments, but knowing that when it's eroding your business, you will have to make a tough decision.
Right.
Does that make sense, Cecilia?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Okay, awesome. Great question. Let's go around the room. I know someone that is always looking at sales. Peter, you there,
Uh,
Peter? There.
I am here.
Yeah.
These are actually great questions and great answers because we're kind of in the same boat. Like our company's been losing millions over the last 2 years, and they've never raised the prices for the past 10 years, and now they're looking to raise the prices. I got to be careful what I say here because it's
Yeah.
not in the books yet. So,
Right, right.
um, like, well, the kind of thing we had this training this morning. Like, we have kind of an Apple product with Walmart pricing. So
Mm.
we got to get it to an Apple pricing and an Apple product, right? But
Yes.
no, I really appreciate it because it gets me more confident to go out in the field because of what we talked about of the pricing, right? So if you have a premium product, why have a Walmart pricing?
That's exactly it. That's it.
And
And stand behind it, right? You
yeah,
know, your service is there, the value is there, stand behind it.
yeah. And so we're kind of the only company in Canada that actually offers what we do. So why why am I backing down on the price and say, yeah, our products are great, but the pricing is terrible? And no, it's not. It's actually the other way around.
Hmm.
Because if the company is losing millions every year, I mean, how long are you going to be sustainable, right? So I come to the terms and accept it, and you say, you know what, we have great products and great service, and if you don't want to pay for it, hey, that's not my problem.
Right. You know, and it's about that attitude that you just spoke about, that confidence, right?
Yeah,
We said that earlier is what makes us different as entrepreneurs and leaders, you know, from our competitors. They go out there, they start charging more, and we all know there's others out there that charge more than what we do, and it's not necessarily that they're better than us. They just have that confidence, and that's
yeah,
what they go into market with. So it starts there, and organizational wide, I always go in and I always tell the teams I work with, we're a premium brand, we're a premium service provider. Those that work with me have heard me say this for many, many years. And so I always tell them, because we're premium, everything internally needs to be premium, our processes, our people, our systems. And that's when we're going to deliver premium service that allows us to demand premium pricing. And that's the mindset that we have to be able to go to market with.
absolutely appreciate it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Hector. Thank you, Willie.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate your input. James Braun. James, you're still driving, but can you hear us?
Uh,
Trying to get the mute button there. I don't know if he can unmute. I know you're driving, so it's okay, James. If you're driving, we're good. We'll come back to Andrew. Andrew, I know you were sort of interrupted there, but let's talk a little bit about you know, the pricing model that we sort of left off for you.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of curious, what do you guys do in a situation that I'm in right now, like with the customer? I don't have credit card backup,
Hmm.
so but I know where she lives and everything, and I know her friends.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a collections problem, not a pricing problem, right?
Yeah.
And so in that point, you know, you have various options. You could try you know, settling for a lower amount, you know, because something's better than nothing. If that's an opportunity that you're willing to live with, you know, you could always go through, you know, collection agencies to try to collect this, meaning you sell the debt off, but if it's not large enough to sell, some people won't buy it, or you can go through the small claims court. And lastly, not ideally, you write it off as bad debt, and it just becomes a write-off for your business, unfortunately. Those are sort of your options on that scenario that you've described.
Yeah, it's only a small, like it's under $1,000, but still,
Mhm.
I've mowed, I've done a couple things on her yard, and just one question I also have is how much do you increase the interest a month? Like just 2%, like for every month she doesn't pay.
You
mm,
can.
Sorry, so the interest on the debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's based on your terms. I'm sure that you've outlined that through your service agreement, right? Um,
Mm.
but that's where you want to stick to and be legal on that. You don't want to adjust it, you know, just because the length of time has
Mm.
passed. Unfortunately, you need to make sure that you stay legal as well,
Mm.
and provide that equity and fairness. My suggestion on this, less than $1,000. I don't know the size of your revenue or business, but provide a settlement, try to get something, and if not, then you just got about $1,000 of a write-off, for your organization, unfortunately. Right? But don't let that discourage you from pricing right in your space. Right? Every business has these. There isn't one that I know of that has never gone through that tough situation. And yeah, Tyler, exactly, fire her, right? Like, move on. Own the bad debt, move on, close the chapter, and you can go on to somebody else who values you, values your service. That's how I'd position this one. Willie, I see you're ready to say something there.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add, lately I've worked through some stuff with other businesses where they have outstanding receivables in, but the first part it was just a handshake deal. Nothing is on paper. And so that's where a lot of problem lies for a lot of smaller business I see where the service agreement isn't in place. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's one I was going to point out. Have a service agreement on everything that you do.
Absolutely. That's going to be another talking point coming up soon. As
Hmm.
we're going to make sure that we avoid some of these pitfalls, right?
Yeah.
James, I
James looks like has his mute button off.
yeah, I would just noticed that. So I was going to come to you, James Braun. How are you, sir?
Good, you?
Good, good, good. Are you
Good.
still out in the
I
field?
What's that?
Are you still out in the field?
I was on a service call and then I had to hang up and go fix some stuff and now yeah. So
Nice,
one of
nice.
those days.
One of those, I like it. Good stuff.
I I
How does
missed
it relate to you? No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I missed the majority of you speaking, so I'm catching what the topic was about. But yeah, I think it's a struggle for every small business
Mhm.
to keep um, accounts for customers that, obviously it always seems expensive, but I think you got to weigh the value you bring versus what you're charging. And I had a client that I was talking to Willie about yesterday. And when you were talking of firing clients, well, yeah, there's definitely those guys out there that makes the guy wonder, is it worth my time to do work? Right. So,
Yeah. They're already in the penalty box for you. Then it just becomes a matter of time for you to make a decision,
yeah, yeah,
right?
for sure.
If you can
Yeah,
salvage it and you can come to terms, great. But if you can't, it's like a bad employee in your organization.
right.
Don't don't dwell on it. Don't make it last longer than it needs to, right? You've identified already it's a bad person in your team. We always say hire slow, fire fast. So it's something that you would need to position yourself to do that.
Right. Yeah. No. And this customer, we never do work for him. Right now, we did one job, and it's he's being difficult and stuff. But off of what Willie was saying there with the agreements, I think that's definitely something that's very lacking. That's even lacking in our business. We do a lot of just um, replying to an email or please proceed or sign an estimate and all that stuff. Change the topic here, but yeah, that's definitely something that is lacking in a lot of small businesses, I think. So
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to that. I know that's starting to come up twice here, so we'll definitely make sure we put that on our schedule to cover as a topic here in the near future.
In one example, I was going to bring up for James there, and you can maybe speak to that a little bit, where I've worked with James and he's been implementing other systems, looking at a CRM program
Mhm.
but internally he has a whole operating system now on an app and all that for all his service techs and yesterday I was meeting with him and I could just see how much confidence he's gaining on he's actually bringing more value than his competition through having a better structure in place. So, James, what or wouldn't you say you're now actually more confident to charge more because of it, right?
well, yeah, we're definitely hands down more expensive than our competition is in town. We always have been. I know when you and me looked at pricing, we changed all of that. And I think I even told you this will never work. We'll be sitting at home, have nothing to do, but we're busy as ever. We're booking into the second week of November right now, and everybody's waiting. So, but as far as the structures, yeah, I think I feel way more prepared, or way more. We're in the growth part, and the way everything is set up with scheduling employees, tracking where they are, jobs, all that stuff. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I
that's where
like
it's
it.
at.
Great to hear, James. That's super cool. And to think back to a few months ago when we started having the calls, and you were like, I don't even know what a CRM is.
Yeah.
And and here you are already, implementing a CRM and seeing the value of that and moving along with some of these technology initiatives that are allowing you, to scale. You're starting to say, hey, I'm adding value to these organizations. We're ready to ramp up pricing. We're ready to do a bit more here. So super good to hear.
Yeah.
Cool, good stuff. Well, folks, that brings us right to the hour. And so again, I wanted to leave you with that messaging around price point. And it's important to understand the premium versus the cheap, right? And how do you relate to your particular market space and make that decision, go own it with confidence, and do not hesitate to increase your price points that will allow you to make the profitability that you and your teams deserve. So that was the messaging today. Willie, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, you know what? I was just thinking if you guys would be willing to share in the community in the discussion page, maybe different topics that you would like us to speak on. Just feel free to give us anything that you feel like you would like more information around. So be happy to see if we can help you.
Yeah, awesome. And again, everybody, glad that everybody was here. Enjoy your evening, and we will talk to you soon. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.